you, and then you do those things. It makes a huge difference in your outcome. And also, one of the things that was happening to me when I was sick, my endurance was in the tank. Because I was so inflamed and because I had so much swelling, I couldn't absorb oxygen well, like the fish. But my cardiovascular endurance was awful, right? And I would literally walk up a hill and be like, I worked out all the time, right? And I was on the treadmill and doing all those things, and I couldn't get the oxygen into my tissues because the lymphatic system is also part of your cardiovascular system. So the lymph, its system actually ends at the top of the neck, right at the collarbone, and it dumps into the veins of the body right before they go to the heart. So the lymph attaches to the veins at the neck, and the veins go to the heart, and then it goes back out to the lungs, and it goes back to the heart, and then it goes out again through the blood flow. So if your lymph is an issue, then your veins are an issue, which means your ability to get rid of carbon dioxide is compromised, which means your ability to actually have oxygen detached from the blood to go into the cell is compromised. So athletes who are struggling sometimes to get past a training plateau, they don't even know that the lymph might be the issue, right? Because I have elite athletes and nobody talks about lymph issues. If you clear the lymph, then they usually can say, man, I ran like a damn gazelle, man. I was like a boom, because you just took the brakes off. And here's the interesting thing that you need to know in relationship to why this is really important for people in the fitness world. And remember I told you that the lymph system's job is to take and eliminate metabolic waste, cellular waste. Well, when you train and you work out, you break tissue down. That's what you do. And you want to do that because I break you down and then you recover. It's easier to break you down. Recovery is the hard part. Then you come back stronger and more resilient. You adapt to the stress so I can give you more stress. So when you're going in and I'm spending an hour kicking my ass, I'm breaking down tissue. And what am I unleashing into my body? More waste. So I'm in the gym and I'm training, trying to become better, which is wonderful. But if you're already toxic when you go in, you're going to add toxicity on top of toxicity. And your body has a couple of options at that standpoint. One, it usually will get to a point where it says, dude, this really sucks, and if you keep going, you're going to get worse, so why don't you just quit? And then most people end up quitting, and they blame themselves because they have poor willpower. And I'm going to reframe that and say, you're probably quitting because your brain is smarter than you are. It says, if you don't quit, you're going to die. So don't do anymore. Or what it does is it actually makes you fatter, because one of the things that your body does, if you can't get rid of waste effectively, it has to find a way to protect you. One of the ways it protects you is it makes you more inflamed. It holds on to fluid. You retain fluid. You actually produce a lot more mucus in your body, but you become fatter because your body uses fat cells to surround the toxicity to take it away from vital structures. So an inability to lose body fat is significantly tied to the lymphatic system. That's why I dropped 30 pounds of not just body fat, but inflammation and cellular waste in a month. So there's a lot of people that are stuck right at that one level. And I'm not saying you have to quit training. What I'm saying is you just start to release the lymphatics in a very specific sequence. Because if you don't do it in this right sequence, you don't get the same results. And then you just let the body do its thing. I mean, that's a really important thing for people to understand. Kelly Starrett, who's a good friend of mine who worked this up a leopard, CrossFit body, he says very similar. He said, garbage out, groceries in. That means get the crap out, then put the nutrients in. And like I said before, it doesn't matter if you put nutrients in, because if the nutrients can't get into the cells, I don't care what the hell you do. Doesn't matter. So that means you got to get the garbage out first. So the order makes all the difference in the world when you do it.
When it comes to assessing this, right, you said you had someone go in there and go to all the lymph areas. Is that the only way to assess this?
Pretty much, people in my world are really usually in bad shape when they come to see me. Chronic pain, autoimmune. I'm not the first cat you see. I'm the last one. And okay, this guy's nuts, but I've been everywhere else. I'll give it a shot. You can't do like a blood test to see if your lymph is an issue. And blood tests for so many people show up within normal ranges, but they feel terrible. It happens so often. But one of the reasons that is because your body does everything it can to keep blood normalized. And that's the last place that stuff shows up, even though you're really sick. There's no like MRI I can give you to say your lymph needs an issue. Once you're familiar with lymph, it'll be by the symptoms that somebody has. And here's the thing, it can be like any symptom you can think of. It can be so many of them. But I usually tell people, the more symptoms you have, the more likely that you have lymph issue. And then it's knowing where to assess these regions on the body. And then you look for puffiness or swelling or tenderness that you have around an area, or pain in those regions. Those usually be your best indicators for that. And then that's how you know. Here's the beautiful thing about it is that when you assess these areas, you start to free stuff up that's already stuck there just from your assessment. Because the nodes gather, and when the nodes get obstructed, you need to just manually go in there and stimulate around a region to free stuff up. Right? It's just kind of like going in and removing the rocks from the stream that are backed up, right? We do that. And just the assessment, most people say, wow, that was kind of tender, or that was kind of painful, puffy, bloated, things like that. These are the biggest symptoms that you have. And once you know how to look for them, it's very, very easy to find. And here's my running joke. I usually tell people, how do you know you have a lymph problem? And I'm like, well, I make it very simple. You're breathing. That's how I know you have a lymph problem. So you need to have some work on it, because I'm pretty sure nobody has. And if you come to see me through this door, I'm in my office, I already know it's going to be an issue in some way, shape, or form, because people have had things for many, many years. I don't know how much of a significant role it's going to play, but I know it is going to play a role in it, because all the other systems of your body that we're trying to affect, they live inside the tank. So that's why you want to do lymphatic work first before you do the other things, all right, of all different types. And that's it. Very, very simple.
So it's probably pretty difficult to find practitioners then that have comprehensive knowledge of how to handle the lymphatic system.
It really is, honestly. There's not many people that are familiar with it in the medical community, because nobody ever talked about it to me. But even if they are, they don't really know what to do about it. Maybe you'll hear something of like, okay, you ever heard of the compression socks, or people get swelling in their feet and ankles when they fly on a plane, stuff like that? That's kind of like lymph issues, edema issues. Then they'll usually tell you to get some type of compression sock or stocking or things like that. Why would that work? Because they're compressing fluid and trying to move fluid up and out, right? So even if they did hear about it, they wouldn't know what to do about it. And I was trying to empower people to know, first of all, know about it, because that's in and of itself is really empowering, because if you don't know what you don't know. But it's like you can't unsee it once you know about it. Then you'll look for it. And here's the thing that happens because I spend 2 days talking about this system, and I tie it to in-depth explanation of how it ties to all the other systems of your brain. I'm going to blow your mind up, and then I'm going to show you how to take care of it. When I show you how to take care of it, this is the response that I always get. That's it? Because I build it up, and they're expecting this huge, like, big, complicated thing, and I'm like, no. Like, all you got to do is rub and slap these 6 places, and you'll be good, right? And then, because it's basic, it's fundamental, and those are the ones that are the building blocks for everything else above. So they're blown away by it, and they They don't think it will work because it's so simple. And then here's the next thing they say. If this stuff was so powerful, why the hell didn't somebody tell me about it a long time ago, right? And then my answer is always the same. That's a really good question, because I'm asking myself that every day. They should have. Effective things don't have to be complicated. And then so they had that initial reaction of, it can't be that simple. But Dan John, one of my favorite people in the world, Coach Dan John, also said, people don't realize how difficult it is to make something simple. So I make it look simple for you because I've done the heavy lifting on your part. And I want you to understand why rubbing and slapping these 6 places is so powerful, because people who see it and don't understand it or sometimes mock it because it seems so simple. That tells me one thing. They don't know jack squat about physiology and neurology. That's what that tells me. Because if you do, you would understand why that is so powerful by the end. So I want to arm people with that knowledge so they could do that. And then the second reaction that they get is they actually get angry, because then they get upset because they needlessly suffered for so long and nobody told them about the system, which is understandable. And that's been my mission now, to have every person that I talk to expose them to it, because I want them to feel the way that I felt, the changes that I experienced. And I'm no special human body unicorn that is going to react and different than anybody else, that other people could do that too. And I slowly began to teach this stuff and fine tune it in my practice by working with people and seeing the responses that they had and changing things up based on reactions. And then that's when I decided I wasn't sure if it was something that I started to teach if people would really be interested in it or not, right? Because like you said before, limp what? Why would I need to know about that? So I put together a self-help video a couple of years ago, and it was like a 2-hour video. I just hired a video guy, and I said, let's do this. It's called Body Aquarium, Lymphatic Mojo. Mojo just means magic. That's why I chose that word, because the stuff is kind of magical of how it helps. And I just put it out there. This thing went absolutely viral, insane, nuts. Like, people just started using it, and then they were getting better, and I was getting messages. I still get messages every day from people who say, thank you, like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like this. And they share all these stories of almost every conceivable condition or age group that had a change for the better. And they're like, I never knew. You were the first one to talk about it. And then that's when I thought, well, maybe I'll try to put a course together and see if people would like more information on it. Because that was the 2-hour video made for humans. Like, I make this very simple. People ask me all the time, I'm not a healthcare professional, can I come learn about limp? And my answer is always the same. If you're a human being, you can come to my course, because I make it fundamental for you to understand, because you should be empowered. You should learn about this system, because it's your responsibility to. Don't leave it up to medicine to learn about it, because they won't. And then they tune on in, and I started to put these workshops together, and then it kind of grew organically from there at this stage now. It's been really a wonderful thing to see from people that give the feedback on it. And I have a lot of people in the fitness industry, and I really wanted to get it towards them too, because people in the fitness industry, first of all, really, really smart. So many of them are smarter than a lot of medical people that I know in relationship to movement. They are actually on the front lines as gatekeepers. They see people who have underlying things long before this person feels they need to go to a doctor to see. And we teach people how to do foam rolling, right? We teach people how to do stretching. We teach people how to do acupressure points on each other. And we teach self-help things all the time. I just wanted to introduce this so trainers could teach what I teach them to the people as well, and you can do it. So the only difference is you're putting these tools that you already use on very strategic places in a specific order, but now you're not thinking about, I'm putting a foam roller on my pec minor. You're thinking, I'm putting the foam roller on my pectoral and axillary lymph nodes. That's what I want you to think about. That's the difference. You're already doing these things now, guys. I just want you to realize what it is you're actually affecting when you're in there. And then when you realize the power that you have, that's transformational in so many different ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very true.
I would imagine with the massage work, the pressure changes, right? Because you probably don't want to be too aggressive with this.
Yeah, so here's the thing that I changed up to, where I've studied a lot of different disciplines in many different parts of the world, where I mix Eastern medicine and Western medicine in my years of studying martial arts and Tai Chi and Nigong and Qigong and many things from Asia. And I've studied osteopathic medicine a lot. When you look at lymphatic or traditional lymphatic, it was notoriously really, really light, very superficial, almost like you're barely touching tissue, which is great, right? And it can work, and it's beneficial. I kind of turned that on its head a little bit, where I mixed in the stuff that I've learned and all those other techniques and brought it to what I learned. So my techniques are, I use the term aggressive, but I don't want people to think that that means painful. Aggressive means that I go deeper into tissues, like you're almost getting a massage, and different types of directions that we're dealing with. And because what I want to do is that when you study the lymph, you've got different parts of lymph. You've got 700, 800 lymph nodes in your body, right? But you've got 3 primary areas in your body where most of your lymph resides. The neck is one. So if I've got 700 lymph nodes, 600 to 700 in that ballpark, 1/3 of that number, think about this for a moment, 1/3 of that number is from the neck up to your head. What that tells me is this: your head and your neck are probably pretty important, right? So if nature saw fit to put that much drainage here, and so I know that when somebody's suffering chronic pain anywhere in the body, it's usually going to be congestion in the neck and head somewhere, usually always. The other place is the skin. The skin is a huge amount of lymphatics just below the surface. Everywhere in the body, skin is very superficial, right? It's near the surface. So that's why if you just rub or tap or do brushing, some people have seen dry brushing to do lymph, it moves that superficial lymph. But the superficial lymph actually has to go down into the next layer.